terrifying night alone in the suburbs. It was a regular evening in my quiet suburban neighborhood. My parents were out of town for the weekend, and I was left to fend for myself. I've always been a bit of a night owl, so I was up late, engrossed in a movie marathon. The clock struck midnight, and that's when things took a creepy turn. I heard a faint tapping sound coming from the window in the living room. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just a tree branch swaying in the wind. But the tapping grew louder and more persistent, almost like someone was deliberately trying to get my attention. I muted the TV, and my heart began to race as I scanned the dark room. I tiptoed towards the window, and that's when I saw it. A figure standing just beyond the glass. My breath caught in my throat, and I stumbled back, knocking over a pile of DVDs. The figure was tall and gaunt, dressed in tattered clothes. Its face was obscured by shadows, and I couldn't make out any features. Panic surged through me as I realized that this wasn't some Halloween prank. This was real. I backed away from the window, my mind racing. Should I call the police? Should I try to escape through the back door? My thoughts were a jumbled mess as I tried to decide what to do next. Just then, the figure started to speak. A low, raspy whisper that sent shivers down my spine. "Let me in. I need help," it croaked. I froze. The voice sounded desperate, but something about it felt off, unnatural, like nails on a chalkboard. The figure's hands pressed against the glass, leaving smudges as it clawed at the window pane. As I fumbled for my phone to call the police, I noticed movement from the corner of my eye. The figure was no longer at the window. My heart lurched, and I spun around, my gaze darting around the room. I was alone, but I could feel the weight of someone's presence, as if they were lurking just out of sight. The minutes felt like hours as I waited for the police to arrive. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the curtains sent chills down my spine. And then, finally, the flashing lights of a patrol car pierced the darkness. I rushed to the door, relief flooding over me as I let the officers in. They searched the premises thoroughly, but found no trace of the mysterious figure. They assured me that they would keep an eye on the neighborhood and left me with their contact information. I locked every door and window, and that night was spent huddled in my room, lights on and phone in hand. To this day, I can't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching me that night. The stranger in the shadows. I was 16 years old at the time, and my parents had gone out for the night. I was supposed to be babysitting my younger brother, but he had gone to a friend's house. So, I was home alone. I was in my room, watching TV, when I heard a noise downstairs. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what to do. I listened carefully, but I couldn't hear anything else. Maybe I had imagined it, I thought. I tried to relax and go back to watching TV, but I couldn't stop thinking about the noise. I kept getting the feeling that someone was in the house with me. I decided to go downstairs and check it out. I slowly crept down the stairs, my hand on the banister. The house was dark and silent. I could hear my own breathing. I reached the bottom of the stairs and peered into the living room. It was empty. I started to relax a little bit. Maybe I had just been hearing things. I turned to go back upstairs, but then I saw something out of the corner of my eye. There was a figure standing in the shadows at the end of the hallway. I froze, my heart in my throat. The figure didn't move. I couldn't tell if it was a person or just a shadow. I slowly backed away, my eyes never leaving the figure. I reached the stairs and turned to run, but the figure stepped out of the shadows and blocked my way. I I screamed and ran up the stairs. I slammed the door to my room shut and locked it. I stood there, shaking my back against the door. I didn't know what to do. I heard a noise outside my door. Someone was trying to get in. I pounded on the door and screamed for help, but no one could hear me. I was all alone. I don't know how long I stood there, waiting for the door to break down. But eventually, I heard the footsteps go away. I was safe, but I'll never forget that night. It was the most scared I've ever been in my life, and it's made me more careful about being home alone ever since. The haunting reflection. My cousin had asked me to house sit for the weekend while she was away. Now, I've never been a fan of old houses, especially ones with a history as rich and enigmatic as this one. But I agreed, thinking it would be a peaceful change of scenery. The evening was unusually chilly, and the wind outside howled like a distant cry. The flickering candlelight did little to dispel the heavy atmosphere that seemed to hang in every corner. I was flipping through a photo album, filled with black and white images of people I didn't recognize, when I saw her, a girl in a Victorian-era dress, staring back at me with hauntingly familiar eyes. My heart raced as I flipped the page, thinking it was just an old family photo. But there she was again, in another picture, and then another. Each time, her expression remained the same, a mixture of sadness and curiosity. I felt a chill crawl up my spine as I realized that the girl looked uncannily like me. I shrugged it off, blaming it on the dim lighting and my overactive imagination. But as the night grew darker, so did my unease. Every time I glanced up, I felt her gaze on me. Those eyes, as if they were following my every move. I decided to put the album away and head to bed, hoping a good night's sleep would shake off the eerie feeling. But as I lay there, in the dimly lit room, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I turned to face the antique mirror that hung on the wall opposite the bed. And that's when I saw her. Standing behind me, her reflection clear as day. My breath caught in my throat, and I bolted upright. But when I turned around, there was nothing there. Just me and the empty room. I rubbed my eyes, convinced I was seeing things. But when I looked back at the mirror, there she was again. The girl in the Victorian dress, her sad eyes locking onto mine. Fear and disbelief battled within me, and I stumbled out of bed, my heart racing. I watched in horror as the reflection's expression contorted, her face twisting into a mask of anguish. And then, as quickly as she appeared, she faded away, leaving only my reflection in the mirror. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, haunted by what I had witnessed. The morning light brought little relief, and I left the house as soon as the sun was up, my mind reeling.